Hi, Paul Anastasio here, another in the series of Western Swing instructional videos. I hope these are giving you some tips. This is stuff that I've learned over the last 40, 50 years. And we're going to tear apart an old tune called Dinah. It's a great old swing standard. First I'll play it pretty much exactly as it was composed. And then I'm going to kind of doctor it a little bit. We'll talk about some techniques. We'll talk about a technique called the Giovannuti bowing, also called two-eam bowing or chain bowing. It's just this. So the first phrase of Dinah, we can make it swing a little harder. At first I can do it with the saw stroke. Well, I'm giving a swing lope to those notes, but I'm doing it with what they call a saw stroke. I can also use that Venuti bowing, and all that is when you see a pair of eighth notes, you can take that second of that pair of eighth notes and you can just automatically put a slur into the next note, whether it's a quarter note, even a half note, or an eighth note. For example, the second bar of Dinah. Get in touch with me. I'll send you PDF and finale files for the bare bones melodies for these dozen tunes we're touching on. Then you can go to makemusic.com, Finale's parent company, and ask to download the Finale notepad, which is free. And you can hear the Finale documents that I sent you. It's pretty good. You can play along with it. You can, if you're just learning to read music, it's really good to be able to see the dots on paper and hear exactly as they sound. So here's Dinah.
This is Dinah in the key of G. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, I kind of interrupted myself mid-thought before the rhythm started playing. But the two ways you could handle those groups of eighth notes, you could saw stroke them, or you could Venuti bowing them. And if you listen to some of the recordings from Stuff Smith and Sven Asmussen and those guys, Grappelli, you can hear they all use that. A little trick if you're wanting to learn a melody and you're using something like Any Tune or the amazing Slowdowner, software programs that allow you to slow the speed without changing the pitch. You can, if you're trying to hear the bow changes, it's hard to hear it when somebody is a good smooth player. In fact, the better the player they are, the harder it is to smooth out their bow changes. But what you can do is you can crank up the equalizer and crank the treble so it's thin and trebly and horrible sounding, but you'll be able to hear the bow changes a little bit better. So that's a word to the wise. So anyway, yeah, when I have a thing like this that has groups of eighth notes, I'll try them both ways. Saw stroke doesn't sound bad. It sounds good. And I'm a down bow player, so as often as possible, I try to have my bow going in a downwardly direction at the beginning of a bar. Now, if you're doing Venuti bowing, you're not going to start a new bow stroke on beat 1. You're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. But if you'll notice, new bar, bump. When that new bar hits, I'm going in a downwardly direction. And this makes for good playing. I've gone to the Festival of American Fiddle Tunes for, Lord knows, 20 years or more. And I glue on the bow. I watch the bowing of all those fiddlers. And what I found was that most of the strongest players tended to be down bow players. Sometimes you'll hear players that'll go and start each bar with an up bow. But they tend to not have the rhythmic strength and solidity of the down bow players. So as I'm playing along on a tune, I'm constantly making little mid-course corrections so that I can be going down. So you'll watch here. Down. 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 Now this next bar, there's 5 notes. That doesn't mean we have to have 5 bow strokes, but there are 5 notes, and we might not want to do that. So far, every bar has come out with down bow at the beginning of the bar. Now, if I do saw stroke on this bar, 5th bar of the tune, no, 6th bar of the tune. If I start with down, now see what I've done? I've reversed myself. I would call that 5-note bar a reversing bar, because if I start with if I start guess what? I'm going up at the beginning of the next full bar. That's not any kind of cardinal sin or anything, but I would probably slur a couple of those. See what I just did? I've taken a 5-note bar and I've made it into a 4 bow stroke bar. So all of a sudden, what would be a reversing bar if played with saw stroke, reverse, becomes a 4 bow stroke non-reversing bar. Now, I'm not ever really thinking of this bar in and bar out when I'm playing a solo, but I've tried to burn it in so that I'm cognizant of trying to go down at the beginning of the bars. It just makes for stronger playing. Of course, that doesn't apply in waltzes because you're in 3/4 and you're going to reverse. But anyway, so we will investigate this and a lot more coming up. So I'll see you next video.